Good morning. Today we're going to take a trip up to a place known as Skidoo. It's located about 180 miles north and west of Las Vegas, Nevada. It's in Death Valley National Park, which most people don't go visit this time of the year. It's just too hot, but this location is about 5,500 feet in elevation. At its heyday of gold mining, starting about 1906 through 1909, as I understand, it's got a very well preserved and intact stamp mill that we'll go visit. So, got the coffee, ready for the road trip. Let's go explore.
You know, it's wonderful that we can enjoy Death Valley from our nice air conditioned vehicle as we continue to cross through the desert. Unlike those characters way back in the day in the early 1900s, here are a few photos of Shorty Harris. Notably, one of the greatest and most colorful of the old time prospectors, Shorty was responsible for some of the region's most famous gold strikes and most famous gold rushes. Just to give you an idea how harsh the conditions can be in Death Valley, in addition to the extreme heat, you can also go from a fine, beautiful, calm day to a super windy day in a matter of 24 hours. This is a collage of some of the things that you'll see if you stick with me on this video. I'll talk about some of the interesting aspects of each of these items and more of the history on this particular site. Continuing our journey to Skidoo, let's go down this dirt road for about 9 miles. Here are a few of the structures that I ran across as I was headed back on this 9-mile road back into Skidoo. It looks like an old miner's cabin and then some head frame works at another mine location. Don't have any idea what the dates are. And here's some of the views of the valley where Skidoo was situated. Skidoo is nestled in the Panamint Range of Death Valley. Established in 1906, it was a direct offshoot of the big Nevada bonanzas of Tonopah Goldfield and Rhyolite. A Nevada mogul most responsible for Skidoo's success was a gentleman by the name of E.A. Bob Montgomery. He immediately purchased the original Gold Eagle group of claims. Nevada capital was now pouring into the district from such investors as Captain Delamar, who was a well-known mining magnate in this region, and others from Goldfield and Tonopah. This was the placard that is posted here by the National Park Service. That gives you a little bit of history of what Skidoo was like back then. Near as I can tell, this is about the same location that 1907 photograph was taken. Again, just for a comparison. Here's a few shots or aerial shots of the valley of what once was the Skidoo site. There's virtually nothing left there. It's just open and barren, and most of the structures that they had there were wooden, and they've been completely deteriorated. There's virtually nothing left as far as evidence of a town site here. This is the main road that leads into the Skidoo Valley here. And There's just nothing there.
Here we are at the townsite. Looks like possibly some dump area. There's just simply not a whole lot of anything to really show in the actual townsite of Skidoo. However, the mill is supposed to be great. We haven't reached that yet. But again, just looking at some old empty cans, a few beer bottles, or other bottles, I guess.
You guys really need to stick with me on this one. The best part of this entire video is when we get to go explore the mill. So hang in there, fast forward, do anything you can to watch the portion that shows the mill.
As I'm walking around this town site, it's very barren, as you can see. Virtually no green. No trees, no shrubs, no nothing. And right now I'm kind of walking around a dump site that has a lot of cans, a few bottles. But I always feel like these are treasures every time I see something that was left over from those days. Not sure what that metal thing is, but let's go take a look. Looks too light to be part of a car, but at the same time, it looks to be part of a car. I don't know if this is a designated dump site for the town, or if this was just behind a grocery store or bar. But it seems to be a high concentration of tin cans right here. And that's about it. They claim that there was about 700 people at this camp at peak. Beer bottle, perhaps.
According to the records, this is an old photo of downtown Skidoo after the big boom. They say it's somewhere around 1916. In 1907, a nationwide financial panic struck that hit mining interests particularly hard. After May of 1907, the newspapers in Skidoo no longer carried announcements of new buildings, planned or erected, and very little about mining development. By 1908, Skidoo started to stagnate as far as new buildings go, and then it slid into a decline. Most of the population was male, though a county school census in late spring of '08 revealed that Skidoo had 39 children of school age. The irony of Skidoo is that just as the mine was coming into full production, the town was withering. It had blossomed into a real town before it had regular water supply, even as the Skidoo Mines Company completed its mill and pipeline to supply water. Skidoo was fading. After the completion of the 23-mile-long Skidoo water line, the workers were released, and the Skidoo population dropped to about 150 by midsummer of 1908. The level and fluctuation of population could not sustain the businesses that had established there, and most of the smaller ones left for more promising locales. By the spring of 1909, the business community of Skidoo consisted of one general store, and by September of 1908, The school district was disbanded for lack of a minimum number of students. The closing of the mine in 1917 eliminated all commercial activity in the area, including the post office, which outlasted the mine by 1 month. Skidoo never really had any permanently built buildings with solid foundations. The stone bank was never built, and available photographs show at the most 12 frame buildings. Most of the residences and some of the buildings were simply tents on platforms, easily hauled away when they were needed elsewhere. That's probably the reason why we don't see much in the way of structures there today. Let's go explore one of the most fascinating structures I've seen at a mine site in quite some time. It's a short distance from the town site of Skidoo. It's appropriately named the Skidoo Mill.
It's a heck of a nice walk over here, nice and level, at least. And of course, it's beautiful.
This is a historical photo of the mill, probably about 1908 when it began production, could be 1907.
As I understand, this mill had a 7-step process. At the very top was where they dumped the raw ore, slid down the chute to a jaw crusher, and then from the jaw crusher to a secondary bin, and then down to those bowl wheels where the cams and stamps were to pulverize the ore, and then it would dump out on those beds that you see right below the bowl wheel, and then it would go down into the amalgamation tanks and then get separated out. But what a beautiful intact mill. Let's go look at it real closely. I'm standing here right now at the stamp mill. You can see the stamps behind me. You can see the rods that go all the way up to the cam. This is where the stamps pulverize the material that has come down from the secondary hopper, goes into these
Amalgamation tables,
and then is mixed with mercury, as I understand, and they call it an amalgamation, and then it goes down to the next process below, which is called cyanidation. I'm not sure I'm saying the word right, but and then goes into some settling vats, and that's where the last of the process ends, and they recover the gold from there. As you can only imagine, this whole operation was enclosed in a tin shell, metal building, and the noise must have been horrendous. But this is this is one of the most intact stamp mills I've seen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 10 stamps, plus I'm not sure how many more over there. Let's go take a look over there.
I believe when the mill was upgraded, remodeled, they added these 5 stamps in 1910, which made up for a total number of stamps at 15.
That pipe right there is its primary water source, as I understand, was how most of this was run, through water. That pipeline right there originates in, I believe they call it Wild Horse Canyon or Wild Rose Canyon, some 23 miles away from here. That platform up right there that you can see that's in rock, I believe there was a reservoir, water reservoir tank up there. And of course, these steps absolutely do not look safe in any way, shape, or form. So you're not going to see me go up there. There's some more of the bulwark. Perhaps a better view of the water.
The amalgamation tables or amalgamation pans.
And the stamps themselves. This actually looks like they had a lot of platforms so that they could service these stamps, because as I understand, this was one of the most difficult parts of the entire milling process to maintain. And those tanks down below are the last of the process to get the final gold. I'm still not an expert in the entire process, but as I understand, I think the gold settles out in those tanks, and that's where they recover it.
A closer look at some of the components of the stamp mill. This was referred to as a bull wheel, which I believe was to help balance the camshaft, which in turn drove the stamps. This configuration of wheels here are the main drive wheels and belt tensioning devices that were part of the main powertrain. These wheels drove the bull wheels on the stamp batteries, which were located above. The source of water is probably what made this mill the most unique in Death Valley. After they constructed a water line from 23 miles away, it had adequate water resources to run the mill successfully, which was extremely unusual in Death Valley. Although this source of water did have some limitations, for instance, in the winter of 1911 and 1912, it was an extremely dry one for the Panamint Range and caused trouble with the water supply. By April, only 10 of the 15 stamps could be operated because of those shortages. And in the winter of 1912-13, it was extremely cold. And in January, the pipeline froze and burst in several places. The workforce of 40 miners and mill works were discharged, leaving only a few people to work the mill at Skidoo. Production at the mill was starting to decline. However, they decided to repair the pipeline, which took longer than expected, of course, and the repairs were completed at the end of May 1913. And then in June of 1913, a fire of unknown origin destroyed the Skidoo Mill building, making all but one set of the 5 stands inoperable. Damage caused by the fire was estimated to be about $50,000 in 1913, which equates to about 1.6 million in today's dollars. The cost of repairs and the maintenance of the mill started to take its toll on the owners. Furthermore, the owners had invested heavily in oil leases that were run dry, and so as a result of that, they were starting to run out of capital to keep things running in Skidoo. Eventually, some of the mines had shut down, and as a result of them shutting down, became less and less material to process. When the Skidoo Mine closed down in September of 1917, the pipeline had been promptly removed, and there was no longer any water supply for the mill. There was not much mention of the town of Skidoo in the mill after 1917. I don't have an exact date of the closure, but it had to be right in and around that year. At the top of the ridge southwest of the town site, with a view down onto the mill, the Skidoo Mines Administration Building was the largest building in the area. Here's a view of the Skidoo Mill compound. You can see that was probably related to operations and whatnot. Looks like the office at the upper left corner there, which is looking northerly, and just over the edge of that would be the Skidoo Mill. Here's a photo of some of the other activity that was in and around the Skidoo mine. Some of these may be such mines as Granite Contact Mine, and it could also be part of the Skidoo Mine.
Well, what did you guys think of the town site of Skidoo and also the mill? Wasn't much there left there in the way of structures on the town site, but it sure was worth the effort to go down and look at the mill and see how intact that was, including the stamps themselves. I have not run across very many ghost towns that have that much left over in there to go look and see. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and a little bit of the history lesson of the area as well. And hopefully you guys will watch some more of my videos of similar content. Thanks for watching, guys.